video is sponsored by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, build your online presence with Squarespace. Hey everyone, Happy New Year! I'm Ace of Clay and welcome to another sculpting video. If you're new here, I'm a sculptor and every week I make a new sculpture. Today I'm sculpting Wednesday Addams from the show Wednesday on Netflix. I love pretty much everything that Tim Burton makes and Wednesday is no exception. This is such a cool show. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. A couple weeks ago I sculpted the Hyde monster from it and that was a lot of fun, and I thought why not start the new year with another character, the main character, Wednesday Addams herself, as played by Jenna Ortega. There's a scene from the show where she goes to a formal dance and she's dancing, and that dance actually went viral on TikTok and probably a bunch of other places, and I just want to pay homage to that and sculpt her in her fun little dancing pose. And then if you enjoy this channel and you like watching me do the work that I do, be sure to subscribe and like this video. And now without further ado, let's get started. Alright, now since it's been a while since I've sculpted a human likeness, I'm actually going to start with her face first just to get the hard part out of the way. So I'm just adding some Super Sculpey Living Doll over this ball of aluminum foil, and then we're going to start with her features. After I've got her face shape figured out, I'm using my pen tool to map out where her eyes, nose, and lips are going to be. And just to further map things out, I'm going to use my large ball stylus to press in her eye sockets. And this is going to be a caricature of sorts of Wednesday, or Jenna Ortega. It is not going to be a realistic human depiction. It's going to be cartoony, exaggerated, and fun. Kind of like making her in my style. And I just popped on her nose there, and we're going to start blending that in with my spoon tool, and then we can work our way down. When sculpting a likeness like this, it's very important to have all the main shapes on the face in the correct places. If anything is just slightly off, it's better to find out now than later. Really take your time and make sure that you're sculpting everything correctly. Now I just want to bring out the mouth area a little bit, and because Wednesday is such a young character, we need to make sure that all her features are young. We don't want to have any sunken cheeks or a sunken mouth or sunken eyes, really. We want her to look youthful and young, but still stylized. And the trick to sculpting a caricature of someone is to take the features that stand out the most and exaggerate them. So, for example, if someone has big eyes, in the caricature version, you're going to make their eyes really big. Or if they have a small button nose, you're going to want to make their nose really small. But still make sure that the features you're adding still resemble the person. Alright, now we're going to start her lips. I just want to separate the top lip from the bottom with this tool here. And one feature that makes Jenna Ortega look like Jenna Ortega, I would say, is her lips. She has a pretty pronounced larger bottom lip, and then her top lip is pretty big too, but it's a little bit smaller, and she's kind of always in this sort of pucker pose with her face. I don't know if that makes any sense, but she kind of purses her lips a little bit. And I want to achieve that in this sculpt because I think that's one of the things that makes her look like herself. And then we got that little Cupid's bow thing there. We're just going to shape the lips out a little bit more and go from there. And I think when I started making these lips, I was like, all right, this is starting to look like her. Not too bad. Now I think I can say confidently that I am out of the ugly stage of sculpting, which happens with every sculpture that I make. May even happen to you too, where you go through a stage where you're like, this looks nothing like them, where am I going with this? And then you just keep going, you take your time, you relax, and it all just comes together. So I think I passed the ugly stage at this point here. Alright, now we're going to start on her eyes, and again, because this is a caricature and Jenna Ortega has large eyes, we're going to make her eyes really big in the sculpture. So I just got this ball of clay in there, and then I'm going to use my spoon tool to press out the top eyelid, and then later I'm going to add a small snake of clay for the bottom lid and blend that in. Now her cheeks were looking a little too sunken in, so I just want to bring them out a little bit more. Give her that youthful appearance. And now that I think it kind of looks like her, I'm just going to spend a bunch of time refining and refining and refining and refining and just nitpicking everything until she looks exactly how I want. And I cut a lot of the refining out just because it's boring and it looks like I'm not doing anything. But you can see there I just refined her chin a little bit. She's got a cute little cleft chin. Just gonna make sure everything's shaped out correctly, and then I'm gonna start popping on some eyebrows. I actually don't use these eyebrows. I end up just painting them on in the end, but they're in for the next couple steps, so I'm glad I took them off too. And I just want to block out some clay here and there to kind of get the gist of what her hair is gonna look like. See if I'm sold. There we go, even though that's the wrong hairstyle for the costume we're doing. But anyway, let's keep refining. Cheeks are still a little too small, so I'm going to add some more clay and bring them out a little bit more. And there we go, her head is pretty much done. Again, I take the eyebrows off later, but let's go ahead and start on her body. Alright, I've got my aluminum wire here. Just want to start shaping out her legs and torso. And I've got some pre-drilled holes into this wooden base. We're going to add the wire, add the arms, and then secure them with some more wire. Now I just want to bulk out the bottom of her dress with some aluminum foil. Then we're going to go over this with some Super Sculpey Ultralight. And here's a nice close-up of that new block of Ultralight. So satisfying. And now let's use it to start shaping out our structure. And there we go, her armature is done. Let's go ahead and get her in the oven. And once she's baked and completely cooled down, it's time to start adding some more clay. We're going to start with the upper half of her body using some more Living Doll, get that all covered, and then add a neck, and then we can start shaping out all of the dress details up top. Alright, now we're going to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. Alright, now before we get into the rest of the video, let's take a second to talk about our sponsor, Squarespace. Whether you're a big business, a small business, a freelance designer, or sculptor like me, Squarespace has everything you need to showcase your brand, sell your products, and more. I've been using Squarespace for over 3 years now, even before they started sponsoring me, and I could not be happier with my experience. Their products are so streamlined and so easy to use that managing my website, aceofclay.com, is truly a breeze. Some of my favorite features include the portfolios and galleries. In my line of work, I have to show everything that I make to the world, and Squarespace's beautiful portfolios allow me to do just that. I even opened my online store where I sell stickers, posters, even original sculpts, and Squarespace makes everything so easy. I can track my inventory, even print shipping labels, I get notifications when I get a sale, and everything I need is right there in the platform. You can even sell digital downloads. They really have everything you need to start selling online. And at this day and age, if you're an online business, you've got to have a social media presence, and Squarespace allows you to integrate all your social media into any page of your website. So if everything I said sounds good, head on over to squarespace.com, start a free trial, and when you're ready to go live, go to squarespace.com/aceofclay to save 10% on your purchase of a website or domain using my code aceofclay. Thanks again, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video. Now back to our sculpture. And then before I do the bottom of the dress, I just want to get her legs and shoes on, like so. And for the frilly bottom part of her dress, I'm going to use this thin sheet of cosclay. Because it is so thin, I don't want it to crack after it's baked, and cosclay stays flexible forever. So we're going to do that, just create some ruffles, and then layer it until it looks like the dress. And before I add each layer, I'm just adding some Bake and Bond to make sure everything is extra secure. Now let's go ahead and finish off the dress with this fancy belt. Here's the first layer, and then we're going to go on top of that with some detail along the edges, and then we're going to add a smaller belt on top of that, and then we'll pop on a buckle. And then of course we've got to pop on some buttons. And once that's at a good point, we're going to go ahead and pre-bake this. And once it's baked and cooled down, it's time to do the arms. And because she's pre-baked, I don't have to worry about smashing her body while I do them. And here's one of my favorite tricks. If your clay is not sticking to your wire, just brush on some Bake and Bond. You don't have to wire wrap or anything like that. The Bake and Bond helps it stick very well. And when I was deciding on her pose, I was going to do the one where her hands are like out in front of her, but I thought this one was a little more dramatic and better for a sculpture, so I went this route. Alright, now let's pop on her hands. And I make her fingers out of cosclay, again because it stays flexible after it's baked and I don't have to worry about them breaking. Now I want to finish off the top of her dress with some more cosclay ruffles. And once her body's done, let's give her some ears. And after the ears are done, her head is done. We can stick it onto her body with some Bake and Bond and then blend the neck in by adding some more clay because her neck is pre-baked. And then we're going to smooth everything out with some Bake and Bond. And then to smooth out her face and make sure everything is nice and perfect, I want to brush on some clay softener. Just like that, she's ready for another bake. And once she's baked and cooled down, it's time to give her some hair. Just want to brush on some Bake and Bond first, add my first block of clay. This is just Living Doll. And then we're going to start adding the details to it, and she's got like her braids pulled up on top of her head. Nice little updo for the formal dance that she's going to. And then I make her bangs out of cosclay just because they're really thin. And then when you're making straight hair like this, I'm just taking my pen tool and rocking it onto the surface. I'm not dragging it, because then if you drag it, you're going to get all these little tiny like bits of clay that are going to come out, and it's not going to look as neat. This looks much nicer. And then I can't really do it on the other side because her hand is in the way, so I use my Explorer tool for that, but same kind of concept. Now I'm going to put my braiding skills to the test and braid together these 3 snakes of clay, like so, and then I texture them and add them to the top of her head. And this really sells the hairdo, in my opinion. Now I'm going to texture her bangs before I attach them, because it's easier. And then we're going to stick them on with a little bit of Bacon Bond, like so. Pop that one side on, then we'll do the other side. And then we'll fill in the middle with some more bangs, but these are just tiny snakes of clay. Little sort of flyaways, wispy pieces of bang on her forehead, like that. And there we go, she's ready for her final bake. And once she's baked and cooled down, it's time for paint. The paints that I'm using are Folk Art brand matte acrylics and Warhammer paints. Gonna start with this nice dull gray color. Get it all of her skin. Only took 1 coat, which was wonderful. And then we're going to start painting the whites of her eyes with some matte white Warhammer paint. And my new paintbrush that I got with the kit that I bought. Very nice, 10 out of 10. And we're going to paint her deep brown irises. And a way to paint irises on a sculpture is to put a dot in the middle of the eye in whatever direction you want it to be looking, and then circle it and then fill it all in. This prevents it from looking cross-eyed or like the eyes are going 2 different directions. It gives them a nice focus. Now we're going to finish off the eyes with a couple dots of white. I love doing this. It just brings the sculpture to life for some reason. Now I just want to dab on or dry brush on some black eyeshadow, and then we're going to follow this with some black eyeliner, and then paint on some eyelashes. Look at this bonus makeup tutorial. And let's paint on her eyebrows. And for her lipstick, I'm going in with a dark red, and then I'm going to highlight it with a brighter red. And of course, we can't forget her freckles. Now let's move on to her hair. I'm using a tiny paintbrush to paint all the little wispy pieces, and then I go in with a bigger one to finish everything off. Alright, now let's finish off her dress with some more black. second to paint the lace around her shoulders, I'm just dabbing on some watered down black. It's sort of blotching together how I like. And we're gonna finish everything off with a nice gray dry brushing. Now say it with me. And she's done! My sculpture of Wednesday Addams is complete. Let me know what you think of her in the comments. I love how this thing turned out. I'm not gonna lie. I think it looks like her for the most part, and it's been a while since I've sculpted a human fan art piece that actually had to look like the person who plays the character, in this case Jenna Ortega. She was a lot of fun to make, and it really brought me back to my custom sculpture days when I was sculpting wedding cake toppers left and right. So it was kind of fun to get back into that. I'm pretty happy with how everything came out. I think if I were to do it again, I would actually add some, I can still probably do this, add some black tulle to the dress just to kind of give it a little more dimension. But other than that, I like how she turned out, and I want to know what you think in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching and being here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check me out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Ace of Clay, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.